Oh, setting up, but we'll be live in 2 seconds.
Okay, yep, I got the live feed on Facebook. So we are good to go,
right,
guys.
We are
back to Randy.
We are back. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. So let's get right into it. We watched our teams play so horribly throughout the regular season, so we're not going to dwell too much on that. I want to talk about some of the best things that we saw this season. Matt, why don't we go to you first?
Okay, absolutely. So we saw a revolutionary change in offensive philosophy for football this year. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens really employed a lot of the spread concepts that we see in college, a lot of misdirection, read options, and by being able to do that, the Ravens really capitalized on a market deficiency in the NFL. While we still have examples like the Bears trying to employ some drop back West Coast offensive schemes, and it didn't work really well with an athletic quarterback that can't make quick decisions. And we saw New England with more of their traditional hurry up offense, but more drop back, quick passes. And we saw the Patriots with the loss of Gronk. But the Ravens have three really good tight ends, and Lamar Jackson's snap decisions, being able to see if I need to hand the ball off to my running back, pull it back, take off, or hit one of his tight ends, really exploited so many NFL defenses that they were just on a roll. And it was just so refreshing to see that a young quarterback who everyone labeled last year, he can't read a defense, he can't throw a football, and the only thing he can do is run. So that was one of my favorite things that I saw from the NFL this year.
And I just want to add that I think Lamar Jackson was such a big part of this season and the story of the Ravens, and Randy is sideways. But yeah, I think he needs more than one person to talk about him. So I want to say last year I completely was fooled into believing Lamar Jackson was a one-dimensional, could not do anything but run, and the Ravens were going to flop. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm completely wrong. Lamar Jackson is transcending the game right now. He's changing everything. Nobody can figure it out so far. The spread offense they're just incredible, and everything he's doing is amazing to me. And I never thought that he would do this. Like last year, I think the Ravens purposely made him the way he was just to be able to do what they're doing this year.
Yeah, I think those good case. It's a really good case for Harbaugh to be coach of the year as well, because to me, Harbaugh took a guy that no one else seemed to believe in that well and totally put his whole offense and invested in him that way. And you don't see a lot of coaches really think and be progressive that way. And I think it's a true credit to Harbaugh and Greg Roman and that entire offensive staff to make Lamar Jackson what he is today. Because I don't think he would be this if he got drafted into a situation somewhere else. So I loved what I saw from Lamar Jackson, like you guys did. But my favorite thing I saw was a different quarterback, maybe not one that was as electric, one that was certainly exciting, at least for me. Jameis Winston was the first member of the 30 for 30 club. And I'm talking about 30 touchdown passes and 30 interceptions. And he also threw for 5,000 yards. Like, we have never seen a season like that ever. Like, to me, he was a must watch. And to me, I loved, because you don't know, anytime you let go of a pass, it's either a pick six to a linebacker or it's a dime 50 yards downfield to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. I'm so glad he's not my quarterback, because he'd be incredibly frustrating to watch. But I loved anytime he showed up on Red Zone, and I loved watching Bucs games because of it. I found so, like, there was such excitement in, like, not knowing what he was going to do next. And maybe it's not like a appreciating greatness thing like you guys, but I found him so satisfying to watch on a week-to-week basis.
But Randy, you had that in Eli Manning. I mean, you had the touchdown machine.
That's funny. You're a funny guy. Yeah, you're right. I guess I did, but Eli didn't run around and, like, I don't know, the way Jameis just sits there in the pocket and just almost fumbles or holding the ball. I don't know. I didn't get that satisfaction from Eli, I don't think.
Well,
Jameis to me truly has, I don't know. Jameis to me has the potential to be like a top 5 QB if he just didn't turn the ball over, and he just like too stupid or can't see to stop doing it. And I don't know. I just think that's amazing.
well, I mean, it goes back to his college days too, though. At FSU, you kind of saw the same mistakes being made. He would throw into double, triple coverage. He really struggles to read the basic concepts of a defense. And then you get to the off-field stuff, like charged with rape. Obviously, I believe he was acquitted of those charges. And then getting on the table, shouting, all that stuff. Like, the guy has shown an innate ability not to learn from mistakes, which is truly amazing. You said he could be a top 5 quarterback. He's never going to be a top 5 quarterback because he can't get over those decision makers.
No, he won't.
Yeah, definitely he won't get there.
No, he won't ever be. But I think the talent level is to that ability is what I guess I'm trying to say. All right, so we're not going to get into too much of the regular season for our teams. Pretty disappointing all around. I would say we can all agree on that. So let's talk about teams who are actually good, actually playing this weekend. And let's go in an order in which the games are being played. I live in the state of New York. Karl, I believe you live in the state of New York, correct?
I do.
So I'm reminded as a Giants fan that there is technically only one New York football team, and it's the Buffalo Bills. And it is the Buffalo Bills, and they are going to Houston to face the AFC South champion Houston Texans. Now, it's not the sexiest matchup ever, but I'm really excited for this game. Tell me what you guys think.
Start off. This game is all year. I've been saying the Bills are overrated, and I've been waiting for them to fall off, and they just never did. I believe this game is going to be a lot closer than people think it is. People I'm assuming are thinking the Texans have a layup here. I do think the Texans are going to win, but I don't think it's going to be a layup. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. Both of their offensive lines are terrible against pass rush. Not that normally would be a problem for the Bills, but J.J. Watt practiced yesterday, so there's a chance he's coming back this weekend, which would be huge for the Texans defense. If J.J. Watt comes back, I feel like the Texans will win. Will have a better pass rush, and that will be key to the Texans winning. Both of them are both of their rushing attacks are going to be ineffective because both of them are very stout against the run. I think it'll be a close one. I'm going to say Texans 2017.
All right, Matt.
I take a look at difference makers in this game. I think the Bills have the better defense. I'm not buying the Texans' defense. I believe the Texans have the better offensive line with Laramie Tunsil. And I'm just not sold on Josh Allen. He can move around in the pocket. He does some different things, but we're talking about Deshaun Watson. Big game Deshaun is what I call him. The kid was made for games like these. They won the wild card game. Well, I'm sorry. I believe they lost the wild card game last year to the Colts. Now the Colts are out of it this year. But I really like Hopkins. I like what the Texans can do to a defense that's built on stopping the run. The Texans are going to be able to stretch the field with Hopkins and put a lot of pressure on that Bills front seven, especially that front four, to get pressure. And I don't think the Bills can do it. I like the Texans offense. I like the Texans to cover the spread. And I'm going to take Texans 27, Bills 13.
I certainly think the Texans are the better offense, and I enjoy watching them more because Deshaun Watson is just incredible. I think he's the total package. I don't think there's anything that he can't do from a quarterback standpoint. He's mobile. He's accurate as a passer. He's a great decision maker. He has a cannon of an arm. There's not a throw that he can't make, especially now with the improved offensive line. Like you mentioned, Matt, I really think that the offense for the Texans is really actually it has the potential to be elite, but the difference maker in this game to me is not a quarterback at all. It's a wide receiver. You can tell the difference of the Texans when Will Fuller is not on the field. And it's crazy to me that the number 2 wide receiver makes that much of a difference, but he is such a deep threat that they kind of have to bring that safety over to double them. And it leaves so much more room for DeAndre Hopkins to make plays. It leaves more room for the running backs to run, to gain 5 yards in the carry instead of stacking the box. He gives you that over the top aspect of the game that that they don't have without Will Fuller. Like Kenny Stills is a nice player, but he doesn't bring what Will Fuller brings. And I can't believe I think a wide receiver has that much value, but you've seen it with the Texans before. When he's not there, Deshaun and the rest of that offense are not the same.
Yeah, but still, they have to double Hopkins. I mean, they're going to have to roll the safety over, and they're probably going to have to play a linebacker in that flat, or mix up their zone coverage scheme a little bit. Even with J.J. Watt coming back on the Texans defense versus that Bills offense, I just don't think the Bills can do enough to score enough points. Deshaun Watson's shown me that he can make the big throw, that he's going to make a play in this game that wows you, that is going to turn for a lot of points. And I don't think if the Texans get up 10-0, 13-0, the game's over. The Bills can't keep up with that Texans offense if it's going to be a shootout. So we're relying on a Bills offense. And like some of our commenters said, Felipe, one of our great contributors, said the Bills are the 2018 Bears. And that's exactly what they are. The Bears had the benefit of playing not a great Philly team last year, and they had a really good defense, but the offense wasn't equipped to keep pace. And the Bears had situations where they could. This is your 2019 Bills, and they're going to get the doors blown off them by the Texans.
I mean,
I don't know if
the Bears were, a couple bars away from, getting past that first round. So.
Oh no.
You had to bring up the Bears, Matt. You did that to yourself. I don't know. I don't know if the Bears is a great comparison. I think the Bears defense last year was truly elite, but I understand your point from the offensive perspective there. I think this is a closer game. I think this is going to be a 23-16 Houston victory. A lot of field goals in this one, I think. I'm going to go. Now we're going to transition, if it's okay with you guys, to the second Saturday game. And I think you'll be surprised to find out the team that's playing in it has not played in a wild card game in over 10 years, not because that they haven't been there. It's just because they have dominated the entire sport for the last 2 decades. The New England Patriots are hosting the Tennessee Titans, led by Ryan Tannehill. How did we get here?
I don't know. Bizarro world. I think I read a stat. Tannehill was the number 1 rated quarterback in the NFL last year. Is that right?
That is correct. Well, since week 10 when he took over the starting job.
Oh, geez. Oh, boy.
Or I don't know if it was week 10, but.
So every time we put dirt on the Patriots, somehow the Patriots and their 12th man, the referees, end up finding a way to win a game. This is going to be no different. Tennessee, nice Cinderella story, but guess what? It's midnight. Your carriage is about to turn into a pumpkin. I don't see any scenario in which Tennessee can win this game. New England has more playmakers. They have a better defense. You're counting on Ryan Tannehill to possibly try to beat the number 1 secondary in the NFL. I believe New England led the NFL in turnovers this year. I can't see Tannehill going into New England and winning this game.
I don't know. I think I disagree with you on the playmaker front. I think Tennessee has legit offensive weapons. And I think the big one is the big man, Derrick Henry, led the league in rushing again. And they have a great offensive line. They have a great scheme. I like their offensive weapons. I love A.J. Brown. He's going to win Rookie of the Year. He is like a bigger Julio Jones. And I think that's not overstating how good he's been. I think he has that potential to be that good. I like Tajay Sharp. I like Corey Davis, the first round pick that they probably overdrafted, but he is a good route runner, and I really like the way he's played with Tannehill. I like their tight ends. I like everything the Titans do on offense. If you just did a blind resume and looked at their offensive numbers, you would think the Titans are a better team. They do things on offense better than the Patriots do. This isn't the same Patriots team that has been there the last 10 years. Gronk isn't walking through those doors. I think that's the biggest difference. Brady has not had the security blanket that he's needed all year. I think Edelman's been that guy, but Edelman's not the reliable person that Gronk was all those years.
All right. So you're taking the Titans.
I mean, if we're going to go final predictions, I'm not saying I think that the Titans are going to run away with it by any means, but if the Titans come out of this game and win, I'm not going to be surprised by it. I think we can legitimately be concerned about the Patriots.
Well, I, for one, would totally be surprised if the Titans won this game. I was looking up stats, and every year we go ahead and bury Brady, saying, for the last 10 years we've been hearing this, oh, Brady's getting old, he's done, blah, 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 blah. And what does he do? He goes out and wins the Super Bowl every other year. So I'm done with that narrative. When Brady retires is when I'll stop. When he's finally done, that's when he's going to be done. Everybody's so worried about the Patriots because they lost to the Dolphins last week. Like, it was clear to see that the Patriots didn't take them seriously at all, and they were just looking forward to the playoffs.
But isn't that a problem when they had a chance to get home field and they completely just blew it against one of the worst teams in the NFL? That's not Patriot-like.
No, that definitely is a big problem.
They have that annual loss to the Dolphins every year. Every year they lose to the Dolphins, whether it's at home or in Miami. You can count on next year. I guarantee you, New England plays Miami next year twice. They're going to lose one of those games. It's like a anniversary of sorts.
And division rivalries are always a little bit trickier. Like, the divisional matchups, like, anything could happen. No matter, one team could be the one seed, and the other team could be the worst team in football, which is pretty much what happened here. The Miami ended up not being the worst team in football, but they were pretty damn close.
I am just shocked that a Bill Belichick-led team with a potential to get a first-round bye, given the age of their team and the veterans that they have that could really use a bye and how good they are at home. I'm just shocked that they let Ryan Fitzpatrick come down and beat them last second like that. And they have the number one defense in the league. Stephon Gilmore got completely outplayed by Devontae Parker. I don't feel like this Patriots team is special like years before. But to your point, they did play bad down the stretch last year and ended up winning the Super Bowl somehow. I just don't know how they can get past the Chiefs or the Ravens the way they've been playing.
Now that I agree with Randy. I think next round you're looking at something an entirely different beast. I don't think they can go into Arrowhead, and I don't think they can go into Baltimore and win either of those games. So this is more or less the last hurrah for this 2019 New England Patriots team. The gap between the top teams in the AFC is mammoth. It's like the Grand Canyon. You got the Chiefs, the Patriots, and the Ravens. After that, you have a bunch of crap. When we talk about the NFC, obviously it's more tightly packed. There's more quality teams in the NFC than what you would see in the AFC.
I guess I will go out on a limb and say the Titans are going to win this game, and I don't think anyone should be shocked to see it because I just think they're a better football team at this point. I just throw the records out the window and look at the blind resume. I think the Titans are better, and I know the Patriots have done this to me before, but I don't know. No Gronk, no elite offensive playmakers in my mind. I mean, they traded a second-round pick for some Mohamed Sanu, and he's been bad. Why? Like, to me, that's a desperation move that didn't work out for them. So I guess we'll see what happens. What are your predictions for the games, guys?
Go ahead, Matt.
I will take New England 13-10.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna take the Patriots 23-13. I just feel like this is Tannehill's first start in the playoffs. I believe. Rookie first starting quarterbacks starting their first game in the playoffs do not fare very well. And especially against a Bill Belichick-led team, I don't see the Titans standing a chance at all. I think the Patriots will destroy them.
It's a good point. I think that's a fair point. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go Titans 16, Patriots 14 with the upset. So with that said, we have a whole other day, and this is one of the best sports weekends of the year because Wild Card Weekend is so exciting. We have 2 games on Sunday, but before we get to that point, are there any moments in Wild Card Weekend history or recent memory that truly make you guys really happy and make you really excited for this weekend? Anything that comes to your mind right away when I say Wild Card Weekend?
I'm going to age myself here, but I believe it was 1994. The Bears played the Minnesota Vikings in the wild card for the dubious honor to get smoked by that San Francisco 49ers team. Now, Dave Wanstead, known as the Mustache, terrible coach by all accounts. I hated Wani. He always would start his press conference. Yeah, he's got a leg. He's got an arm. So that's my memory of Dave Wanstead. But they beat the Vikings, and no one really gave them a chance to beat the Vikings. So it was really exciting. It was a fun game to watch. A lot of Bear fans were pretty happy until we realized that we got the 49ers.
What about you, Karl? No, nothing too Cowboy related for you, or what?
talking Cowboys related here. I mean, nothing happy wise. I mean, besides luckily beating Detroit, with a penalty that was involved. But
when the refs helped you beat Detroit, yeah, I remember that.
Basically, yeah. If I have to, when I think of wild card weekend, though, the moment that always comes to my mind is always, and it involves one of the teams that's playing this weekend. The Music City Miracle comes to mind every time. Like, how could you ignore that?
It's a good one. Of course, I think that's a great call. I think that's one of the more memorable plays in the history of the sport, let alone wild card weekend. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because mine is not nearly as important. Mine's actually really stupid, but the Bengals played the Steelers, I believe it was 2015 in a wild card game on the late Saturday night game. And the Bengals have been terrible most of our collective lives. And they finally had a chance to beat their rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Montez Perfect intercepts Big Ben with like a minute left on the clock and just runs out of bounds and just keeps running into the tunnel. He thinks the game's over. They have it won. Little did you know, there's a penalty. He gets another unsportsmanlike penalty for running off the field. The Steelers got like a 30-yard penalty off of that. 30 seconds later, they kick a game-winning field goal, and thus the Bengals are still the Bengals. And it was like their best team they had recently, and that's probably their best chance to win a playoff game. And of course, they Bengaled it. So that's just one thing that always makes me laugh, and just to show that anything could truly happen in football, especially in this weekend. So I'm very excited for it. I would argue, I don't even argue, I think it's fair to say that the Sunday games are way better than the Saturday games. I think the NFC is deeper and it has better teams in general, besides the top two. But we're going to start off with the 1:00 game on Sunday, which is Vikings going to New Orleans in a Minnesota Miracle rematch, except you're flipping the location this time. We have Kirk Cousins going in to face Drew Brees. What do you guys think?
The Vikings are getting smoked. Talk about a team that's built on soft quarterback play. Kirk Cousins in a playoff game is about as funny as Mitch Trubisky winning an MVP award. So what we're going to see is Drew Brees passing all over a very ordinary secondary. I mean, you talk about the weakness for the Vikings. It's not their run defense, it's their pass defense. They have a hard time stopping the pass. The really important part is they're going to have to get so much of a pass rush on Brees so quick, whose release is so quick, whose offense is designed 1, 2, 3 steps, balls out to Michael Thomas, who catches everything like he's a vacuum cleaner. And then you talk about the dome noise against a fragile-minded quarterback. Dalvin Cook's going to have to amount for almost 200 total yards for this game to be competitive. And even then, with 200 total yards for Dalvin Cook, they're still losing this game. I'm taking Saints 31, Vikings 17.
Carl, what's up?
Yeah, you touched on basically all the points I had. The Vikings secondary is awful, and Drew Brees is going to shred them apart. The Vikings do have a good run D, but again, Kamara won't have much room to run, but he's great at the backfield. So again, Brees will have more success there. And of course, Kirk Cousins, like he cannot do anything in any sort of big game at all ever. Like he has failed every chance he's had to succeed in a big game, and I think he'll do that again. The Saints are very good against the run, so Cook won't. I mean, he's too good to be completely stopped, so he'll have his big runs here and there, but he won't be able to even come close to bridging that gap that the Saints will put up. I'm going to say the final will be 34-20 Saints.
Yeah, I kind of share the same sentiments you guys do. I can't imagine this game is all that close at the end. I mean, I could see this game being close in the first quarter, maybe early second quarter, if the Vikings can establish the run. But what worries me about that is that Dalvin Cook, I don't know if he's 100%. Mike Boone is not the same guy as Dalvin Cook is. Dalvin Cook is a legit top 5 running back, maybe top 3. And I really like the way the Vikings run the ball and how they run as an offense when he's healthy. But his injury at the end of the year really makes me really down on them as a whole, because now you're relying on Kirk Cousins to compete in a shootout with Drew Brees. And that to me is just not a competition. I think that Drew Brees is going to have a field day against what you guys said is an older secondary. And I think that the Saints have this Seahawks type quality where the crowd, it gets so loud, it could snowball and totally overtake a game similar to the 12th man up in Seattle. So I think the game might be, say, like 10-10 early in the second quarter. I think the Saints take a late touchdown going into the half, go up 7, and I think the second half is just the Saints roll. I'd say the final score is like 38-17 New Orleans. I think that's a safe score. I think that's probably what I would say.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So this is a game Karl and I probably feel a certain type of way about because we hate this team quite a bit, given that they play in our division. Some team had to win our NFC East, Karl, and unfortunately for you, the Cowboys could not beat that team. Therefore, it is the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Seattle Seahawks and Russell Wilson. I kind of like the matchup. I really think it's going to be an ugly game, but it's going to be physical, and I think it's going to be really entertaining. What do you guys think?
I just want to say that I'm glad I'm not in the Eagles position right now because I have a feeling like the Cowboys would have been just destroyed here. In my unbiased opinion, I think the Eagles match up better with the Seahawks than the Cowboys do. So I think this game, people are writing off the Eagles because they came out of the NFC East and the whole division was weak and they were lucky to even get in. But that doesn't even matter. The playoffs, everything is a whole new ball game. I feel like the Seahawks played them in week 12, I believe. But they're not the same team they were on week 12. They don't have Chris Carson, they don't have Penny anymore. They had to re-sign Lynch, who barely even played, last Sunday. He's extremely rusty. They had Travis Homer starting running back. Like I don't see how they're gonna be very effective running the ball. The Eagles defense will put constant pressure on Russell Wilson. Like we saw last week against the 49ers. Russell Wilson will have trouble starting the game, but eventually he will catch fire because that's what he does. So what the Eagles will have to do if they want to win this game, they're going to have to get a big lead early, and their offense is so injury ravaged. I don't see how they can do that. So I think the Seahawks will win this in a very close game.
I think we're missing your prediction there, Karl. You kind of froze on us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. What part did it cut off at?
You said a 2 with Seattle, and that's the last we heard.
Yes.
Seattle. Okay, I don't even know where I was. Okay, so did I
give us your score?
The score? Okay. I think the Hawks are going to win the game 23-20. I think it'll be a close one.
That's a good score. What about you, Matt?
This game I go a lot of back and forth on because for me, Seattle is like a tale of two teams. You see the team that makes a lot of silly mistakes, lets opponents jump out to leads on them when clearly they're the better team. We saw it with the San Francisco game in both games this past season where San Francisco jumped out to a 13-17-3 lead, and Seattle would have to have these furious fourth quarter comebacks to get back in the game and win one of them and a chance to win the second one. Philly worries me for two reasons. We could talk about the injuries, but the experience. It's like one of those teams where you don't want to play around with. You want to bury them when you can bury them. Carson Wentz has immense talent. I don't think that he's put together a quality resume since his injury. Obviously, he had that MVP type first season, but there's something about Philly that's strange, that's weird. And a lot of people point to Nick Foles, and now Nick Foles isn't there anymore, but Carson Wentz in theory is the better quarterback. If Seattle puts together four quarters like they play fourth quarters, just try to do what you do for all four quarters, what you do in the fourth quarter, this shouldn't even be a competitive football game. I mean, Seattle on paper is better at almost every position health-wise. But something's tugging at me where this game's going to be a lot closer than what I think people realize that it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I can't bet against Russell Wilson. So I'm going to take Seattle 17-16.
Okay.
Matt, the way you ended that is kind of how I feel as well. I have a hard time betting against Russell Wilson. I know that Seattle's banged up. I know that their offensive line is not good. I know that their running back situation is not ideal, but they got a lot out of Travis Homer last week. I thought he actually looked really good. I mean, I don't think you need a stud running back to win. I think that you can use a running back by committee. Boston Scott, he's shown you for the Eagles side that you can get production from a guy who might not be a high draft pick, but I think that at the end of the day, you have to look at the secondary for the Eagles. I really think it's banged up. I don't think it's very good, especially if Jalen Mills doesn't play. I think that Russell Wilson is going to carve up the Eagles, and I think also to counterpoint that, Carson Wentz is playing the best football of his career at this point, and I think that's a credit to him to get them to the playoffs because he's playing with no receivers of note because he hasn't had Alshon Jeffrey all year. Deshaun Jackson has missed every game since week 1. He's throwing to undrafted rookies from the AAF. Like he has made this work with a lot of guys that none of us have even heard of. So I think this game will be a shootout more so than a defensive struggle. I could see this game being like 31-30, 31-27. And you know what? I'm going to go with the upset. The upset as the home team. I think Philly's going to win this game. And I said I couldn't bet against Russell Wilson, but I just did because I don't know. I don't trust Pete Carroll, and I think Philly, they're champions now, whether we wanted to believe it or not. I think that Doug Peterson's a good coach, and I think somehow at the end Carson Wentz pulls it out.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I think when you take a look at all the things that stack up against Philly and all the things that stack up against Seattle, both teams have been here. Like these things add up. So I think you do point to home field advantage, who's used to playing, where they're going to play. I mean, if this game was in Seattle, it wouldn't be close with the crowd noise and with Seattle or with Philly being so big.
I agree.
But, yeah, I mean, I just have this game is going to be a struggle. I would stay away from betting people. Stay away from this game. Don't touch it. Just stay away. Like Randy said, it could end 31-30. It could easily be a big-time shootout, or it could be one of those ugly, low-scoring games. So I would stay away from it from betting purposes.
Yeah, as you guys know, and I'm sure a lot of other people know, I'm a big gambler. This game is probably the only one I would absolutely not touch this weekend. Not at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Philly won at all.
And I don't know, in the history of Wild Card Weekend, I always feel like there's an upset that we all don't want to call. And I think this is the more likely upset. Like, as much as I think the Titans could win that game, I think this is the more realistic upset. And I think Philly at home shouldn't be considered the upset, but, you know, I think the Seahawks have how good a year they have with Russell Wilson being a legit MVP candidate. I think that if you say Philly's going to win this game, that is considered the upset. I think you guys would know the lines better than me. Is Seattle favored in this game?
Seattle favored in the game. They are favored by 1.5, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for reference, it's actually like 4.5 because the home team gets 3 points.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, Vegas still thinks it's going to be a close game, and I tend to agree that it is going to be ugly, and I'm not sure if it's going to be a defensive game. I tend to think that it's going to be more offensive. I think we're going to see a lot of points and a lot of blown coverages and a lot of good quarterback play. Okay. Well, I think this is time for us to wrap it up here on the first edition of the Deep Thirds Football Podcast in Football Life. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. Karl, Matt, you guys have any parting shots?
When in doubt, never ever bet against Tom Brady in the Wild Card Weekend.
I have to second that.
Play the Wild Card Weekend.
My biggest play this week will be on the Patriots, and I just don't see how the Titans even have a shot whatsoever.
All right.
I believe Randy froze.
I believe
I will remind you guys. I'm back. I don't know what keeps happening. Anyway, before I say goodbye, I will remind you now that Tom Brady did lose to Eli Manning in the Super Bowl twice, 2 times. So anything could happen in football on any given Sunday. It's why it's the greatest sport in the world. I think you guys will agree with me on that sentiment. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. If you could, stay tuned on our life groups because Vince Mercandetti and Matt Whelan will have the Above the Dugout podcast Monday at 5:30. They will be examining baseball's latest and current events and hot stove action from a more lighthearted and observational view. Obviously, it's the off season, but the hot stove is burning, and I'm sure they'll have a lot of entertaining topics of discussion for you guys. So once again, we'll be back next week.
White Sox. Go White Sox.
Yes, go White Sox. I'll say go Yanks, and Karl, I'm sure you'll say go Mets.
I will say go Mets.
Yes, we'll be back sometime next week. It's looking like Friday, and we'll preview the divisional round and recap what we talked about this week. This was a pleasure, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for listening.